Hello, everyone. My name is Mirna, and on behalf of the Mindalia TV team, welcome to Mindalia live streaming, where thousands of people around the world gather daily to see the lectures and interviews organized by Mindalia TV. Today with us, we have Dan Blanchard. Dan is a best-selling and award-winning author, speaker, and educator. Before starting with Dan and our wonderful guest, we want to remind you that Mindalia's mission is to share information that can help raise the level of consciousness around the world. You can help us by subscribing to our channel, leaving us a positive comment down this video, or sharing it with someone that you know that is going to benefit of the content that we're going to be talking here today. We also want you to collaborate with Mindalia with your own valuable content. And for that, you can go to our website. On the top, you're going to find a link that says Collaborate with Mindalia. That link is going to take you to a form that you can fill out, and our technical team will be getting in contact with you. You can collaborate with us in English through Mindalia TV English, as you already know, but you can also do it in Spanish through Mindalia Televisión and in Portuguese through Mindalia Televisao. Please visit our different channels and platforms, Facebook pages, Instagram accounts. In that way, you not only help yourself keep updated with the wonderful content that we're sharing, but you also help us reach as much people in the planet as possible. I'm not going to be delaying this any further, and I'm going to be leaving you with Dan and with our wonderful guest, Rick Titan. Guys, welcome to Mindalia live streaming. The screen is yours.
Well, thank you, Mirna, and welcome, Rick. So, everybody, let me tell you something about my buddy Rick Titan. He's all the way from Calgary, Canada. He's joining us tonight for this wonderful show on Mindalia TV. Some of you might remember him as Razor Ramon, the wrestler, world champ. Rick, you've done so many wonderful things. I've heard you had like a little bit of an acting career. I know now you're a transformational speaker, a life coach. You do workshops. And I hear they're great. And I know one of the things you talk about is like the 1% of people out there work for it. So you always talk about that inner world, work on your inner world so your outer world can be better. And you do such good work. Not only are you out there just doing wonderful, fabulous things, but you're also like doing good things. Like I hear you're involved with the prostate, which is the prostate cancer recovery beds for men that need to recover. I mean, that is just so touching. You do that, but it makes sense. Totally makes sense because I know you, Rick, and totally makes sense that you do that. And I know your mission is to get clients and students empowered and back on track. When me and you, we kind of do that. We definitely have that in common. So can't wait till we have a great conversation about that tonight. So Rick, I know I just scratched the surface on the things you're doing. Who you are, and I know you got a new book out. So I'm hoping that maybe you can fill in some gaps, tell people who you are, and share that that great book you're putting together. So
Great.
You're up, Rick. Thanks, buddy.
All right. Well, thanks, Daniel. Well, I think things started, I've always believed that if you can see the absolute dark in things, then you'll end up finding the light somehow if you're searching. And I'll keep it abbreviated because sometimes I can go on and on about wrestling, but there's not much point here. That's not what this is about. But I did wrestle for 10 years and wrestled in Japan, Austria, Germany, Puerto Rico, Mexico, all over the U.S. and Canada.
Wow.
And for World Wrestling Entertainment. And it was quite a run. But at the same time, the locker rooms were pretty rough. They were very competitive. It wasn't really a family environment. You had to have a huge ego to be in that business. And I'll admit that I did. I think it's part of the job.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. And the last couple of years that I was out there, I thought, well, I'd been a world champion, tag team champion twice, made more money than I'd ever made before in my life, but I was miserable, really unhappy.
Yeah.
And
I think about that, Rick. I think about that. How many kids would that be like their dream?
Yeah.
WWE wrestler. I had kids when I was coaching because as you know, I wrestled also for a bunch of years. I was a 2-time junior Olympian wrestler, 14 years a coach. And I used to have kids come out from my wrestling team and have me coach them in intercollegiate wrestling moves just so that they could begin their journey of trying to go to WWE like you. And then you become world champion multiple times, make money, become famous. It's like every kid's dream, but you're saying, hold on, time out. There's more to life than that. So please do continue with that.
That's right. It's a superficial part. I know people I know some millionaires like Dr. John DeMartini from The Secret's a friend of mine, very humble, very fantastic human being. I know some other millionaires that are miserable. They're not happy, you know, and it's always more. And they say that money is the root of all evil, but I believe that greed is the root of all evil. And you always want more. And then when going along with that, with the Eastern philosophies, then that becomes mental grasping or clinging or attachment onto a person, situation, or thing, which the Buddha says is the cause of all suffering.
Yep, no doubt. I definitely believe that. So when you were going through this and you were like living large and being famous and had adoring fans and all that, how did you start to step away from that and decide that I don't want to do that? It must have been very hard for you to step away in some ways.
Yeah, it was, because I didn't really have any other skills. I lived out of hotel rooms for 10 years. Didn't read much during that time. The guys were really rough and tough and rumble, and the conversation's not very intelligent. We just partied a lot. In ring, as you know, I've played many different sports, and I can honestly say that even though the finish is predetermined and there's some choreography, it's the hardest sport I've ever done. It's just so hard on the body. And for the last couple of years I was there, I was aching, spraying in pain from my ankles to my knees, to my hip, all the way up to my head, headaches, neck aches, and the whiplash effect of falling down over and over every night. And
yeah,
I thought,
it's tough.
yeah, so I was on the NWO, the New World Order bus back then, and looking out the window, and I saw this cute little Japanese couple walking along, and they're holding hands and smiling and laughing. And by this point, I didn't even bruise anymore. We kicked and punched each other so hard, except for the face and the groin.
Wow.
I didn't even bruise. And I thought I'd just gotten out of a relationship, which I wasn't very happy about. And I thought, that's so cute. And that's all I want in my life, is just to be happy, because I wasn't happy anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I could backtrack a little bit, growing up here in Connecticut, I grew up in East Hartford. The next town over was Glastonbury, which was Bob Backlund. And with myself being in the wrestling world, my path crossed all the time with Bob Backlund as he was going through those years. And even many, many years after, I mean, I just saw Bob Backlund like 2 weeks ago. So our paths are still crossing like at least once a year. Our paths are crossing somewhere. And I think that he would totally agree with you. You know, even though it's choreographed, the outcome, everybody already knows what the outcome is. You got some amazing athletes doing some amazing things, and it hurts. It does. And for anybody out there, don't think it doesn't hurt, because it hurts, So definitely. But I think, like I said, that even though it hurts, that money, that fame, that lifestyle, I think some guys just get trapped into it.
It's hard not to.
Would you agree?
Yeah, and it's the culture of it all. And I didn't even learn the word culture, understand what it meant until I left wrestling. I didn't know what compassion meant, because it was so competitive all the time, very aggressive all the time, and had, of course, difficult times in relationships. Didn't pick the best relationship partners either at the time.
Yeah.
And so just sitting there feeling hollow, I wrote in my book, Wrestling with Consciousness, my first book, that I felt like I had a heart of charcoal, is what it felt like at the time. And even though I was surrounded by people all the time and adored by fans, I felt very, very lonely.
Yeah, I get that feeling. I think, Rick, that a lot of people don't understand that. They see somebody who's famous, somebody who's surrounded by people, whether it's on TV or even with social media. You got 100,000 followers, whatever it may be. And people wonder, how could he be lonely? There's no way he could be lonely, but it happens all the time. So he could definitely be lonely. And now, picking back to a thing that you had said earlier, like sometimes my kids ask me about my wrestling days, my coaching days, or my Army days. And I tell my coach, my kids now, it's like, listen, I go, long time ago, your daddy used to be a warrior.
Yeah.
I go, now he's a daddy.
Nice.
And he's happy to be a daddy and a husband. So that kind of brings me back to what you were saying. You're just watching that couple walk down the street and you're like, wow, there's another life out there.
Yeah.
So when you were thinking about this, Like, how did you go right into writing? Or was that like your therapy, your path out?
It kind of was. What happened was I got DDT'd for the World Heavyweight Championship in Osaka. He held on a little too tight. I jumped a little too high because I was going to make it look real good if I was going to lose.
Yep.
Ego again. I should have just rolled with it. But you know, everything does happen, as cliche as it sounds, for a reason. God or the universe has a plan for us. So I got depressed for about a year after that. But what I did do is roll back and forth on a couch for a few days and got off the Percocets and the different kinds of painkillers and things I was taking to get them out of my system finally, which was messing up my life. And, you know, addiction's a tough thing.
Wow.
And then from there, I started reading Shakespeare. I'd lay in a tub with Epsom salts. I took English literature, psychology, and history in college just for a semester before I went away and wrestled. And so I could pick up the Shakespeare and figure it out and be in my space of peace and calm. And also had done martial arts before I got into wrestling. That's why it was a fairly easy transition for me.
Yep.
The sensei taught us how to meditate when I was 15 years old. So I started to breathe and meditate, even though I didn't fully know I was meditating at the time. And then I thought, I'm going to train my brain as hard as I train my body.
Yes, I love that. The whole Greek values of mind and body. That's something that I've always believed in, Rick. And I know, like, when I went through like high school and well, even before college, I remember, like, you know, I was a 2-time junior Olympian, wrestler, you know, football state championship team, all that Thanksgiving Day game. You know, I broke the Connecticut bench press record.
Wow.
My beginnings were in some ways parallel to your beginnings, when it was like I just trained my body. And it wasn't that important. Like reading a book, who does that?
Yeah.
Like girls, that's for girls, right? Like boys go out and wrestle in the play yard or do tug of war or shoot baskets.
Yeah.
Boys do something besides read books. Reading books is for girls because that's passive, right? So at some point, Rick, and I got on that same lane that you got in, where it was just like, you know what, it's time to train your brain.
Yeah.
It just can't be all brawn and no brain. I mean, the Greek values are mind and body for a reason. You know, it's not just body, or it's not just mind. You know, it's both. It's a balance of mind and body. So I've become a really big fan of that. And then since then, like you said, I enrolled in college just like you. You know, got a bunch of degrees and read all the time.
Yeah.
And now I could say that I'm well read and I'm an author like you. Yeah. And to any other tough guys or aspiring tough guys out there, Rick, I think we both agree that we could tell them, hey guys, read a book. Read a book. Pick up a book when you're picking up those barbells. Right?
Yeah, train your brain too. And the body breaks down, you know. So I broke my neck, I broke my ankle, I got a hip replacement, all these things, and can't lift any of the weights that I used to lift. But at first it was a bit of an ego bust, but after a while you just get used to it, you know, and lift the light weights and do what's good for you.
Yeah.
And self-care is so important. And also trying to let go of that ego and that image of that big titan in Japan or second Razor Ramon in WWE, to let go of all that.
Yeah, that's not easy.
It wasn't because the neural pathways get carved so deeply in our brains. Imagine for a decade of that all day, every day. It's hard to break. So I would say to anyone who's having problems, upsets, anger, addictions, anything like that, you can, by learning new neural pathways in your brain, like a sense of peace and calm, which you can get through the philosophies, you can get through meditation. And I would always say they'd have to be the correct philosophies. That might be the challenging part, but start as a beginner. Dalai Lama is always a good one to start because it's plain English. And then take some meditation classes, but take the classes that really resonate with you, because I went to a bunch of different temples in Calgary and didn't really care for any of them, but I wasn't going to stop until I found one. Then I found a really great one with a Tibetan Buddhist monk and studied with him for 4 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Where'd you do that? Was that in Calgary or?
Yeah, it was in Calgary. Yeah.
Wow. What a great opportunity.
Oh, it was fantastic. It turned my life right around. It helped me learn to let go of those things that I was clinging on to with that identity, and
Yeah.
that, what is my I, or what is my me? Is it my thumb? Is it my ear? Is it my brain? It's none of it. What am I? And then connecting to other people and being, one, getting a little bit heavy, but all of our molecules, and getting scientific as well, are constantly intermingling, in our energy and our flow, and quantum
Yeah.
physics shows
Yeah.
that even across the universe, there's energy flows that come from us. So knowing that, it gives you a whole different perspective on these things, and it's reality now. They're proving it so that people don't just have to guess or think it's airy fairy, or pray but not really believe. It's there. It's real.
Oh, no doubt. Totally agree with you. I know, like when I'm teaching high school and I'm teaching World War II,
Uh-huh.
and I talk about Einstein's theory of relativity and E equals mc squared,
Mm-hmm.
with the atomic bomb and all that stuff. So then I
Mm-hmm.
start talking to my kids about energy, and I tell them all, I'm like, put your hands on your desk right now. I'm like, what do you got there? Is that a solid thing or is that energy? And they're like, it's a solid thing. And I'm like, no, it's energy. It's
Yeah.
like, really? I'm like, your desk has like a little bit of a vibration
Yeah.
that you can't feel, but it's really an energy. That your
Yeah.
desk is an energy thing. So sometimes they look at me like I'm a little weird, but I'm like, it is what it is, guys. I know you may not get it, but someday you will. I mean, everything is like a little bit of an energy.
Give
So
them a microscope and they'll see.
yeah. So you had mentioned something about The Secret. You have like relationships with the
Dr.
authors of The
John
Secret,
DeMartini.
and I know they
Yeah.
talk a lot about the energy. Can you tell us about any relationships or anything you learned from that?
Yeah, I went through the breakthrough experience with Dr. John DeMartini, and we've kept in touch. We've gone shirt shopping. We've hung out.
Cool.
I've done a couple interviews with him. Great guy, and again, very humble person. It just goes to show you that. And I think he wrote a book. I know he wrote a book. I think it's called "How to Get to Heaven and Still Make One Hell of a Profit."
Oh, really?
And he does talks on money as well. So
Yeah.
I really believe that we are here so that we can live our highest life. And our highest life doesn't mean being poor, doesn't mean wearing rags, doesn't mean
Mhm.
starving, and the ascetics in the mountains used to do that. The Little Buddha
Yeah.
with Keanu Reeves is a perfect movie for that, to take a look at it. But
Yeah.
balance in the middle way is what he discovered throughout that. And I think that's such a great way to think too, and I've been to the point where I've gone to the extremes in physical, benching 450, squatting 500 pounds, and
Mhm.
then getting injured, not being able to do that before, making lots of money, spending all that money, um, and then getting really, really spiritual, but then never really asking for anything. So then being really, really tight for money. And that's no fun to live either. As much as I coach
Mhm.
on stress, if you're broke, you're stressed.
No doubt. No doubt. And I love how you started over and you have, it seems like you had everything against you. Like I can still hear the roar of the crowd and I
Yeah.
miss it. And
Yeah.
you had that like 100 times what I had. So you must have totally missed that. And then you got the money and the super fame and the addiction. And like you were talking about the neural pathways.
Yeah.
I mean, for you to start over, you said you were sleeping in hotels
Yeah.
and that you really hadn't developed skills, really wasn't well read. For you to start over, it was like against all odds, and that you did. So I think that's a great message to all of our people out there who are struggling.
Hmm.
Saying, listen, you can start over. The world is not, it's not over, baby. I mean,
Yeah.
you can start over. And like, what would you tell those people who just feel like maybe life isn't worth it, or I don't know. What would you tell those people?
Well, there's always a way out. And the number one thing, if I can say anything today on this TV show, is ask for help.
Mm.
Because sometimes the people that know you best will be able to help you best. Sometimes those are the people you have to block because they're giving you the bad news, the toxicity. And if you have to spend minimal time with them because they're close to you and that's just the situation, then spend minimal time with them. And then go seek people, go to networking meetings, or if you're an introvert, just meet one person for coffee and try and find people. Almost everybody will say yes on Facebook if you ask to meet with coffee,
Mm-hmm.
and then also go through, if you want to go through the temples, go through temples. Or if you want to go to churches, go to churches that really resonate, that your heart space just opens up to it and you can feel that vibration going on, that yes, this is right for me. Because like I said, I went through a bunch that just didn't seem right. It's a search, and they call us seekers, as a matter of fact. And so again, I wouldn't recommend rolling back and forth on a couch and rolling and sweating for 3 days like I did to get off the painkillers. Very dangerous, but
Yeah.
there are places out there, there are houses that will take you in and it'll teach you a 12-step program. Ask for help if you need to get a sponsor, or go to AA or NA or whatever it is, because it's really, really hard at the time. But once you get past it, life becomes beautiful and springtime like again. And I was read about anywhere from 30 to 60 minutes a day right now.
Good advice. And got me good advice all the way through, Rick. So I get this. You were like doing some meditating. You were studying some Eastern philosophy. You're finding some really good stuff. But how did you go into like the speaking and the authoring and workshop? How did you go down that road?
After I finished wrestling, it was kind of cathartic. I wanted to write out a whole bunch of things. There's quite a bit of wrestling in it, but I think people would find it interesting in that I tell spots of what it felt like to be in that ring at that time, how hard I got kicked and how it knocked the wind out of me, and I didn't want to keep going. What the crowd sounds like, what the whole thing feels like, how your adrenaline shoots up when the music plays, when your tune plays, the screaming of the fans where all your hair stands on end. I mean, you can only explain it. Experiencing it's a different ball game, but I think that a lot of people would find it fascinating to get inside the head of what's going through somebody's mind right at that moment inside that ring with all those people around, with all the moves and the pressure, because there's no take two in wrestling like there is in acting. You can't screw up.
Yeah, that's true. Everybody's watching, huh?
Yeah.
So did they come to you and ask you to speak? Or is that like something you pursued on your own?
I did it on my own. I started doing, after learning from a monk who kind of wanted a few of us to become monks, and that wasn't my path. I felt like I kind of had my fill of, we read 2 books. One was Skinny, How to Solve Our Human Problems by my teacher's teacher. Another one was called Joyful Path of Good Fortune, about that thick. We went through those and I understood a lot of it. And each mind works a different way. Some people understand it, some won't. If I tried to read that book on my own without the help of a monk, there's no way I could have gotten through it. It's way too ethereal, but then the next step would be to become a monk, which is not a goal of mine. So then I started renting little halls and doing little talks on it. And a couple of the guys in town said, well, Rick, that just went way over people's heads. So I rewrote everything. And then, of course, did do things like Toastmasters and bettering myself. So there's a word I learned in Japan I forgot to mention earlier, and it's Kaizen. It's Kaizen. It means constant incremental improvement. So if you're having trouble with something or struggles with something, you can't expect to jump the next day or even the next month. But if you can even write down at the end of each day, I think of gratitude before I go to sleep every night. And I also write down, what did I manifest today? Just little things.
Yeah, that's great. And I went through the Toastmasters as well. Totally know what you're saying about that, the speaking and the Kaizen. I've written about that a bunch in my books and articles. So I'm so glad you brought that up, because not enough Americans are familiar with that Kaizen, which is like a change is good. Kai and Zen. Change is good, which it is. But I think about you like renting halls. And I'm like, that's amazing. I mean, it was like somehow you had that confidence in yourself. And the only reason I could think of that you had that confidence was you must have had something burning in you saying, you know what? I've got a story. I've got something to say. So I'm going to rent that hall. And my hat goes off to you. I applaud you for doing that. So like, again, I believe that's what drove you forward. But I mean, how did you go into like the book writing and all that?
Well, from there, I finished the career in the wrestling career and didn't know what I was going to do. But I just started writing. And then I decided after I started writing a bit that I was going to write a whole book. So I'd say about 80% to 90% of the book is on spirituality, even though it's called Wrestling with Consciousness. And I'd also been reading the Bhagavad Gita at the same time, which is that inner struggle that we all have. So I thought I'd borrow some of that and simplify it and try to create a little more awareness to help people see things for what they really are, for what the world really is. I was actually watching something on materialism last night, and we were talking about nothing's really material. This body's not really material. They're all molecules moving around. It's all energy, right? You talk like that to the average person in the street and they just think you're crazy, or they ignore you and tell you to bug off, right?
Yeah, no doubt. I remember one time me and my wife were watching TV, and it was one of those dating shows, those Bachelor or Bachelorette, whatever it was, and I'm not really a big fan of those shows, but I was just watching it because my wife was watching it.
Yeah.
And this one guy, he's got like his date, with the girl.
Yeah.
And she's an attractive young girl. She's probably like 20 years old, 21, 22 years old. And he starts talking to her about the energy and all of these like philosophical things.
Yeah.
And I just look at my wife and I'm like, this poor guy. I'm like, he's obviously a very successful man, but she's not going to like him. You know what I'm saying? Unless she's in that realm and she understands it. Yeah. If she understands it, she probably would have loved every word he said.
Yeah.
But due to the fact, and I'm like, she's not going to like him. And because chances are she's not in that realm because she was young, maybe like a 21-year-old girl, So, after he left, you could tell she was like bored. She went back to all the friends. She was bored. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I was just like, oh, well, her loss. I'm like, he could have really given her some great information, helped her improve her life. But where she was at that point in her life,
you have to be ready.
Yeah, she wasn't interested, right? When the student's ready, the teacher will appear.
Yes.
Yeah, and I believe you've become one of those teachers. You're like a transformational speaker, author. You're doing like some coaching, perhaps.
Yeah, I do one-on-one coaching here in Calgary at Better Medical Center. I also do it via Skype. And right now I'm giving away for free on ricktighton.com, my website, chapters from my book, Power, Profit, and Stress Free. So I want to include all three of these things because they are so important. And a couple of years ago now, I got a hip replacement. And
I did too.
Oh, wow.
Us wrestlers.
Yeah. And it really had me sitting there going, okay, well, I didn't have disability, so I'm just getting by on coaching a little bit here and there. And of course, sitting bored and watching way too many movies and eating junk food.
Yeah.
I also thought, well, how well am I set up for my future? And another friend of mine came up with some ideas, and we came up with the name Power, Profit, and Stress Free. And I thought, well, if I'm going to call it profit, I'm going to have to learn a lot more about profit. I know how to make money, but unfortunately for me in the past, I really knew how to spend money.
Absolutely. Yeah, no doubt about it. So something that you said before that I read before about you that caught my eye. Like you said something like the 1% will like work for it. Mm-hmm. Do you remember what you meant by that?
1% will work for it. I'm thinking maybe are you talking finance?
I just remember reading on your webpage or somewhere on the internet, you talk about the 1% will work for it. And I think about, just what you've done. Maybe 1% of the people make it to the WWE?
Yeah.
Less than that becomes world champion. Maybe how many people bounce back and start over? It seems that you've had a career of being the 1% who has worked really, really hard to make things happen. So and I agree, effort. I've always preached over and over and over, the talent will only get you so far. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like my boy, he's a high school boy, very, very talented in his athletics. But I had to hound him for years about effort.
Yeah.
Effort. And he didn't get it.
Yeah.
Rick, until one day I had him out on the track and I was timing him, and this is right before he went to high school. And he said, "Hey, Dad, why are the kids starting to catch up to me now?"
Mm.
And I'm like, "Oh, thank God you finally asked."
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, because you have talent, but you're lazy with the effort.
Yeah.
Or not so. It seems so. You've been there. You've been able to put forth that effort. So, I mean, how do you get people, how do you encourage people to not rely on their talent, not rely on like good luck, no, not rely on whatever, just effort. Put forth the effort. How do you get people to do that?
I do a seminar called the Fire It Up Seminar. So we go for an abbreviated form. We go. I'll give the philosophies and the ideas, and then some of the ideas of what it took to get psyched up going out to the ring and wrestling as well. But then I take people through a space of peace and calm and get them calmed right down. I call it the pond meditation. And then I get them to stand up and start jogging on the spot to get their heart rate up a little bit, keep their eyes closed.
Oh, I like
and yeah, and then get fired up just like crazy, scream yes as loud as they can at the very end of it. And just to show them they can choose their own state. So
Yeah.
they can go from very, very calm, which I didn't know anything about in wrestling. And at the very end of wrestling, I thought, I know how to get crazy psyched up, sort of like Bill Goldberg, run steps, do push-ups, bang my head off the locker, blast through those doors, hear my music, feel no pain.
Yep.
The adrenaline was crazy, but I didn't know how to do the opposite. I didn't know how to calm down. I'd be pacing back and forth in my apartment at home and just couldn't stay still. Well, stillness, and I was actually talking to David McElwain, who owns Bally and Beyond here in Calgary. Props to him. He's his plan. He's got a whole bunch of beautiful artifacts from all over the world, and he's got a little set up. It's I think $149 for the statue stand, or a nice curved seat which keeps your spine straight for meditation, and a couple other things for $149. And his mission is to have a meditation room in every single home.
Cool. I think we could all use it, no doubt. And like, I'm glad you brought up the stillness thing, because I have trouble with that. Like, I'll be driving down the road, I'll be tapping my finger, and my wife will reach over and put her hand on my finger, kind of get me to stop, and she's just like, just sit still, it's okay. Like, I can't seem to do it. And I was at I was listening to a speaker a couple days ago, maybe a week ago. He was actually a chiropractor, great speaker, great speech, and he talked about the stillness as well, which I thought was great. And he talked about meditation as well. And you know what I told myself, Rick? I told myself, yeah, I gotta do that. And I've been talking about doing that for the last 20 years. I've been talking about doing meditation, but for some reason, I can never seem to make it happen. Like, my day just goes bam, 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 from one thing to another, to another, to another. And I just can't seem to make it happen, but I know I could benefit from it as well as most people.
So what do you do if you decide you're going to read something?
I get up early and do some reading.
Yeah.
Usually make a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, and I do sit still for the reading.
Yeah. Okay, so that's called blocking time, right?
Yes.
So you need to block time for meditation. And from me to you, I'll send you some audio meditations that might help and get you started.
That would be great, Rick. I appreciate that. And I guess that could be good advice to our audience out there as well.
Yeah.
To block some time, schedule it.
Yeah.
Make it a priority, right?
Yeah, it's just like exercise, and meditation is becoming more and more popular. I think I almost beat the curve, and so did David from Belly and Beyond. We're sort of staggering and stammering around for a couple of years there with people, but I think people are really starting to get it. And I think a meditation room in every home is a beautiful idea. Everybody goes to well, not everybody, but many people go to the gym, and they'll have a gym space in their house or a yoga mat or something like that. Well, why not have a special meditation space as well? Because it calms you down, it gives you better focus, you retain what you read even better, it carves new neural pathways. And as we're speaking right now, we're in beta brainwave level. So once you start to meditate and you get into that zone, it becomes alpha brainwave level. Then I'll give you a quick rundown. I do them in acronyms to make it really easy for the North American mind.
Okay.
So you take a few deep breaths all the way in, all the way out. And you do this on your own for a while. And then you start counting the breath, breathing, counting 1 on the inhale, 2 on the exhale. So you're present. 1, 2. So you're existing in the breath. And then when you're in state and you're relaxed enough, and this could take 5 or 10 minutes, just keep going and just don't hyperventilate.
Yep.
And make sure you're comfortable with your spine perfectly straight, and imagine a string pulling off the top of your head. And then the idea is this one is for something that's been bothering you in the past or maybe bother you in the future. It's the let go meditation. So I'll give you the quick abbreviation is while you're in state, look deep inside is the L.
Yeah.
And because a lot of times we'll go through a day or a week and something's really upsetting me, something's really bothering me, but I don't know what it is. It's driving me crazy and I can't put my finger on it, and maybe you're bugging your wife or irritable or whatever it may be. Yep. So then the E is to explore. And I always point down to the gut because it's a gut feeling, even though subconscious mind isn't really there. But then we poke around. So let's explore what it is that's really bothering me. Did somebody say something? Did my ego get hurt? Did I get angry? And angry can mean so many different things. Frustration. It can mean resentment. It can mean just upset. There are varying different levels, which is the last article I wrote on my website. And then once you get, at first it might be two things and you're jumbled up and you're a little bit confused. But with more and more practice, you'll pinpoint it. Oh, it's that got me, and it's her that really bothered me. But you know what? If it wasn't her, it would be somebody else. So I'm really the one that got bothered. And it's that shempa or that emotional negative charge that we have that comes up. So the T is to transfer that. So say wrap it in a bag or put it in a box in your mind while you're meditating and in the state of peace and calm.
Yeah.
And then transfer it out. And then after that, a quick scenario of a big, huge steel garage door that's 100 feet wide, 50 feet high, and 6 feet thick of pure steel. You've got the remote. You kick that bag or box underneath, slam that garage door closed so it's on the other side of the universe away from you. And then the G is to gray it out. And if you think about your first crush's eye color or teeth, or the table or chair arrangement in your first job as a teenager, some they're foggy, they're faded. You can't really remember them very well. Yep. You can literally make something that happened yesterday that was upsetting you feel 20 years old.
Yes.
That's the G. That's the gray. It's a smog machine, or driving in the fog, or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And the O then is to replace that. And if it's not replaceable, then there's not much you can do there, but you can replace your feelings. And when I used to coach people a few years back, I'd say, well, what's your ultimate mate look like? Or what does your financial state look like that you want? But mostly now, when I say make the order to the universe, and there's another meditation on peace and calm, is I want my order to the universe to find me in a space of complete peace and calm.
Wow. That is like great advice. I'll be looking forward to getting an email from you.
Awesome.
To help me along my meditative journey. So we're going to start wrapping up here in a moment. Mirna's going to come back on and close up the show.
All right.
But I'd like to, any last words of advice for our audience or anything we didn't cover that you want to kind of say now?
Well, the book's called Power, Profit, and Stress Free. I'm giving away parts of it right now on my website, ricktighton.com. You can find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter. And if you need any coaching, if you need any help with certain things like this, feel free to email me or even Facebook me, and we can set something up. And it was a pleasure being on. Thank you so much, Daniel.
Cool. Thanks, Rick. So glad you were able to make it. Had a great time talking with you. I'm sure the audience is going to love this show. It looks like Mirna's coming back to close up the show. Welcome back, Mirna.
Yes, I'm back. Thank you guys for sharing with us. We are happy that we are able to be a channel for
Thank you.
your wisdom and all that wonderful information that you shared with us today. I was going to ask you, where can we find you, Rick? But you already said it. And Dan, where can we find you?
So they can pretty much find me almost everywhere. Just Google Dan Blanchard, author, speaker, whatever. Check me out on Amazon, The Storm, or danblanchard.net, granddaddysecrets.com, www. But before it's so I'm everywhere. Just Google me. You'll see me. Thank you, Myrna.
Thank you. I'm definitely grateful to be living in this time in which, like, the strong guy is saying what you guys say, like, drop the dumbbell, pick up the book. There's a lot to learn. I love that. I truly enjoyed your conversation, and I'm happy that we can, again, be the channel for people to hear everything that you guys have to say. It's been a pleasure having you. To our audience, thank you again for joining us. Mindalia is your home. Visit our website, our YouTube channels, Facebook pages, Instagram accounts. We have Mindalia in English, and we have Mindalia Televisao and Mindalia Televisión in Portuguese and Spanish. We are going to be happy to see you around. Guys, welcome once again. Thank you so much. And until next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.